our first question is from someone named Thomas, and they ask, what is the difference between a placebo and a nocebo?
Thomas, great question. Thank you for submitting that. We've talked a little bit before on, I forget what episode it was, but we're talking a little bit about the placebo effect. And what placebo means when we get down to the Greek and the root words of it is I shall please. Beautiful, beautiful word to say, beautiful meaning behind it. We tend to think of a placebo as a bad thing. It's all in my head. What a placebo is saying is that, wow, your mindset and your faith in that thing was so powerful that it actually created a physiological response that was equivalent or greater to the actual response that was created from the chemical change or environmental change, whatever it may be. That's a beautiful thing. And other countries have actually started using placebos in a way to help people heal, knowing that we can give this person this sugar pill and it will create the positive effect without the side effects happening. So more to come out on that as that evolves, because there's a thing of transparency that needs to happen with it. But I'm interested to see the overseas data of where it goes. But it's interesting. So a placebo is something that creates a positive effect in the sense of it gets you closer to healing, whatever that may be. It could be a medication, it could be decreasing pain, it could whatever it may be, but it's something that moves you positively towards the goal that you had in mind. A nocebo is now the opposite of that. It's still the same in the sense of it's your belief and mindset associated with that particular treatment or event, but instead of it being a positive outcome that gets you closer to the healing goal that you had or your health goal that you had, it actually moves you the other direction. It's a harmful effect. An example I can give of this one is when someone is told that for example, their back pain is due to their sacroiliac joint being out of place, and that when they go to do a particular movement, that this thing could now create a shift that creates their SI joint being out of place. So that person may have an effect from the treatment being done, but now it's harmful because they're afraid of a particular movement or participating in society in certain ways because of that. This education could now create this other thing from happening, which is now harmful. So because they're not moving, other diseases can now be caused from this. That now becomes a nocebo. Does that make sense? Is that okay?
Yeah. And so it's basically like placebo can have a positive impact where nocebos typically have more of a negative impact.
Yeah.
And I think the negative impact often is fear. That then fear creates more fear, which then creates more fear. And I think with what we're doing, our goal is that we're helping people become fearless or using fear to empower them with hope, right? Getting them out of the fear, out of the nope, and into the hope. And so,
yeah.
yeah.
And most coaches would typically say that defense wins championships. And so we need to work on our defense. And we learned in the GLS, yeah, defense is great.
It's important.
It's important. But offense, you need points on the board.
Yeah.
You need points on the board if you want to win the Super Bowl or championship, whatever it may be. You need defense, but you need to put points on the board. And part of the fear is that we've become so defensive in our treatments that I never want to blame providers. I think providers are doing the best that they can with the information that they have. To that, there's always outliers. There are snakes in the field that are very, very well informed and are intentionally offering these treatments or these tests that do create harm. And they're doing it because of the money that's coming in. And yes, that is negligence and it's fraud. And it's a terrible thing, but it's happening. And for us to act like it's not happening, well, we wouldn't be doing our mission justice, because these are the people that are getting plagued by nope more and more, because what they thought was a trusted source is now leading them down a path of nocebos, which is creating more harm and getting them further away from the person that they were intended to be. With that being said, there are some providers that maybe they're not as informed. They're not up to date on the research. They've kind of found their practice pattern and they're just sticking with it. And that's a hard balance, because if you're a provider, you took an oath to do no harm. A nocebo is creating harm. So by you not staying up to date, you're actually creating harm. And I can think of multiple examples of where this is happening, and we won't go into all of them. But the way that you can spot this is by the language that's being used behind it. A lot of these things are dressed up behind fancy words and fancy terms that the person is saying on repeat over and over and over again. We're seeing it again, not just in healthcare, but in the wellness field as well. Quick example, sorry going down this path, but
okay.
Quick example is this idea of an ionic foot bath. Like you have foot pain or you have toxins in your body, so you're going to get this foot bath that's going to clear out these toxins and restore your health. It's working on this system and it's creating this chemical compound and all this, and you put your foot in this ionic foot bath, and as you're in it, the water turns from white to brown as the quote unquote toxins come out. People are paying to go get this treatment done. This special foot bath is going to create this healing response and all these things. Well, if you run the ionic foot bath without having your feet in it, it still turns brown. It's not toxins coming out of your body. It's a reaction that's happening from the machine that's being put into the water through the process of electrolysis that's creating the brown water. But people are being told that it's the toxins that are coming out of their skin, which is now harmful. Because now instead of them spending time and money on a treatment that would get them closer to where they want to be, they're spending on something that's not actually happening. So that can be nocebo in the sense of the harm is that you're taking the time away from them that they could put into whatever they need for their healing that probably isn't this ionic foot bath. And if they're putting their trust in this ionic foot bath, I would argue that there's something deeper that is really being missed, that they're kind of being scammed of this thing. That being said, science doesn't have all of the answers. The science has a lot of the answers. Science doesn't tell us everything to do, but it tells us what not to do. And so we really have to be careful. So how do you point out a nocebo? It's this thing that's dressed up behind all these fancy words. Drink this drink. It's going to increase your mitochondrial activity to create more ATP that's going to give you better energy than you've ever had in your life before. No, it's not. It is a saltwater tablet. You put a little bit of teaspoon of salt in your water. You're telling me that's going to increase your mitochondrial activity? No, you know what is going to do that? Getting a good night's sleep, getting enough calories, being purposeful in your next day, like those things, right? So it's tough to kind of pick out like what's a placebo, what's a nocebo. A nocebo, it's harmful. It's make sure that you keep coming back for this thing. Make sure you avoid these things. Make sure you never ever lift over 20 pounds again ever in your life. Versus saying, hey, yeah, you know what, you had this thing done. Maybe for the short term, we should be cautious with how much you're lifting. Let's kind of reference that range to 20 pounds for the next couple weeks. As things start to get better, let's start to progress that. We'll start to progress that. So in the words that we use, we can create the placebo or the nocebo.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about like extremism. Like if you're extremism that's not freeing, right? Like if you're using or if you're being told language that is very extreme and it doesn't free you as a person to be who you're meant to be, to live a fulfilling life, to live a life of purpose, that's probably a nocebo, right? Like it's extreme language that's limiting you and chaining you up, and you deserve better than that.
Yeah.
So simple way to put it, I guess.
Simple way to put it. It's a very complex science answer. Yeah. I hope that demonstrates some examples that are available.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the question, Thomas.